Welcome to Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You are going to hear the stories from the eclectic life of a guy who is a professional counselor, a family man, a SWAT team chaplain, outdoor enthusiast, a guy involved with ropes, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, a chaotic Jedi, and who is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Adversity. Using these stories, we take the facts lead to concepts, and from the concepts we make a variety of life applications. Just a caveat about the facts. Most of the time we will tell you the facts just the way it happened, but once in a while we'll give you the facts the way other people remember how it happened, and that usually includes a tablespoon of embellishment. No harm is meant, just good, clean fun for educational purposes. Please subscribe and share this with your friends or your enemies. It might help them to be better people if they listen. As always, we thank you for keeping up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Introducing the Bible degree with digital ministry. Paul used the marketplace and the synagogue to reach an expanded audience. We have access to the internet and social media. I once heard it said that when McDonald's introduced the drive-through window, they did not change the Big Mac, only how it was delivered. Faulkner University is now offering a new digital ministry track for their Bible degree. Faulkner's degree provides training in understanding and teaching the gospel, alongside training that will allow students to create quality digital content. Opportunities for evangelism in the digital spaces is unlimited, and this is innovative ministry education for our contemporary culture. One of the instructors is a 2-time Emmy-winning former ESPN designer. Members of the Church of Christ could be eligible for the full tuition Jack Zorn Scholarship in order to pursue this special area of study. For more information, contact admissions at faulkner.edu. That is admissions at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a digital partner with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I have been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time on the shooting range. I got to go to some ranges that were public use, and just because I like to shoot, got to use those. But I've in the last 33 years have been allowed to go to the police shooting range, and the policemen, when they go to the range, they're working. It's part of their job. They have to be proficient with these weapons, and so the weather doesn't matter. I've shot on the range when it was so cold. I was wearing so many layers. If I fell down, I wouldn't be able to get up. I've been on the range when it was wet and everything you had to be cleaned and processed and dried out. And I've been on the range when it was blistering hot in July. Now, the old NASA range had a couple of concrete strips and the rest of it was grass. The new modern HPD range is covered in concrete. And there's no shade, there's no trees. I mean, when you're standing out there in the elements, whether it's cold or hot or bright or drizzly, you're out there exposed to the elements. And then after 15 guys shoot 300 or 400 rounds each, you get to participate in this wonderful little exercise called picking up brass. And basically, all you're doing is you're walking around in the heat or the wind or the weather or the cold, and you're trying to find these little pieces of spent brass so that you don't leave them on the range. It's sort of like an Easter egg hunt in hell. You see, brass is the term for a spent shell. A bullet is the part that flies out of the front of the gun. And then once the bullet leaves, there's an empty brass cartridge that once contained the gunpowder. And then you have the used primer, the little dot in the middle of a center fire cartridge that the firing pin strikes, creates a spark. The spark ignites the accelerant or the gunpowder, and it causes the bullet to fly out of the barrel. Once you've shot that, you discard it. It in a semi-automatic weapon or an automatic weapon, it just flies out. In a revolver or something that's single shot, you have to open the breech and dump it. But you don't take time to pick those up while you're shooting, because in a gunfight, you don't worry about that. You only do this after you finished on the range. And in fact, I guess in a real gunfight, you wouldn't even worry about the brass. But once you've fired your weapon, and these little brass casings they're all over the place. If you're firing automatic weapons scatter brass like a flower girl from the Mississippi Squirrel Revival Church on crack. And on the police range, every shooter picks up their own brass. Now, you go to a professional range, you go to a gun club, oftentimes, somebody else comes behind you and cleans up the brass. That's not what happens on a police range. There's no such thing as a brass fairy that comes out and takes care of the brass overnight. There's nothing that happens that way. You see, well, okay, on a police range, sometimes there are brass fairies. You make the cadets pick them up, or you make the new trainees, but you can't call them fairies, even though if you're talking about magical fairies, if you call them that, you'll have to go to HR. But normally, it's something everybody does. Everybody that shoots goes out on the range and polices their own brass. I have no idea how much brass I've picked up. I have picked up a lot of brass in 33 years. And of all the brass that I picked up and put in a big barrel to be either recycled or discarded, of all that brass, I have a few pieces of brass that I've kept. I have a piece of 5.56 that I shot with a rifle from 50 yards with iron sights. And we were just trying to see what we could hit with our rifles. And I hit this very small cylindrical piece of brass. I have quite a few of 30-06 brass. That's the caliber rifle I hunt with. One of them is in a drawer at my house, and it's written on it with Sharpie marker. It says 150 yards, crow. That's all it says. There are a few others with a rolled up piece of paper in them, and you might find a note detailing the distance at which I was at when I shot that particular round and killed a deer or an antelope. When Lonnie Beth was a senior in college, her final art project, one of her teachers says, "You're the only student I have who knows as much about firearms as you do. And you also are addicted to shiny things." I mean, she's a straight up girl, but she also knows how to shoot a gun. She says, "So for your final project, you have to do an art project using shiny brass off of a firing range." So she took one of my line drawings, and I had a line drawing of 2 entry team guys that I had done to create a T-shirt design, and she recreated that line drawing and made a mosaic using different calibers of brass that were donated to her from one of our range guys who's also a former sniper. Gunner, my oldest grandson, and I made a plaque in my shop. We cut out a board and then we drilled individual holes in it, and the holes were the same size as certain pieces of brass. So he has this little plaque in his room, and in the holes he has a 22, a 17 HMR, a 9mm, a 38, a 357, a 223, a 556, a 308, and of course the 30-06. It's one of those things that boys collect that moms and females in general don't understand or appreciate. Well, it's day 2 of the 2nd grade at Christian Heritage, and the boys in the class are supposed to bring 3 to 5 items in a bag back to school and use those items to introduce themselves. My daughter, Lonnie Beth, LB, sent me a picture. Gunner's little bag had 3 items in it. He had his ring that he won when they won the World Series in baseball. He said, I've taken my ring because I'm a baseball player. He had a seashell, and he told Mom, he said, because I like to walk the beach with you and Mimi and collect seashells. And then he had a piece of spent brass. He said, I'm taking this to school because I like to shoot and hunt with Papa Jonesy. And it's just spent brass. But not just spent brass. That little piece of metal represents time spent. It's the time we took to learn to shoot the Daisy BB gun that my brother Gerald bought Lonnie Beth when she was Gunner's age. It's the time we spent shooting a .22, learning how to use iron sights. It's the time we spent taking that same little rifle and walking in the woods, quote unquote, hunting. But all we were actually doing was shooting acorns and wading in the stream like army men. It represents the time we have spent in the blind until it started getting dark, and he said, I'm ready to leave. But I suspected he was really just getting scared. And as we walked out, and he was walking so close to me, he was actually bumping my leg. And I asked him if he was afraid, and he said he was. And I said it was okay to be afraid. It's just learning how to handle what we do with ourselves when we feel afraid. And then we talked a little more about why you should be afraid or not afraid in the dark. And I said, well, are you afraid of things that hide in the dark? And he said, yes, sir. And I said, well, I don't know what you think is hiding in the dark, but if there's anything out there hiding in the dark, it's hiding because I'm here. And the things that you are afraid of me. It's the time we spent when our all-day hunting trip turned out to be 2 hours. And before 8:30, we ate our deer tenderloin, we ate our Doritos, we had eaten our gummy fruit snacks, and we drank our Powerade. And just as I was rattling the paper to put things into the backpack, Gunner sits up and says, I see a deer. And that's the first deer he ever shot. How this deer managed to walk in on us with all that racket and not notice us, I have no idea. I think that's the piece of brass he took to school. That little piece of brass will represent the time we spent following the blood trail and losing the blood trail and going back home and getting Oreo and have her follow the blood trail, and she lost it. And finally, late that afternoon, just before dark, Steve Watson and his dog came up and helped us, and we actually found his deer. All that, every one of those stories and more are represented in that one little piece of spent brass. Spend the brass. Spend the money. Spend the time. Burn the gas in the lawnmower to give people rides when you're not cutting grass. Burn the gas in the boat, in the jet ski, in the four-wheeler, in the side-by-side. Burn the batteries in the flashlight just so you can walk around and see what's in the yard at night. Burn the batteries in the video game. Spend the energy. Take the opportunity and do the little things that someone else might not see as huge while it's happening. Or they may just take for granted because that's just how things roll when they're with you. But for that brief little amount of time, you've done something as insignificant as spin the brass. Later on, they will feel special because we made them feel special. A piece of ammunition has a shell, a primer, powder, and a bullet. But you take that one little piece of ammunition and you use it to shoot frogs, deers, acorns, or cans, and all you have left is spent brass. But you haven't just spent the brass. If Gunner were to look inside that little piece of spent brass, he looked close enough, he'll realize there's something in it. He'll find a little note. It'll say the date. It'll say 45 yards. It'll say Kill Mountain. It'll talk about the gun that he had, and it will say the first deer. And it'll be written on a rolled up piece of paper stuffed inside that little piece of brass. But if you look deeper into the brass, if you look through the brass and beyond the brass, you get a tiny opening and a memory portal opens up. You see what was there. You remember who was there. You see what was happening when the bullet was fired. It becomes much, much more valuable than recyclable spent brass. It's more valuable than just spent time. It's more valuable than spent energy. It becomes a story about time spent well. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.